can be what you wanna be. Be what you wanna be. You just be what you wanna be with me.
Good morning, beautiful people. Welcome to Happy AF. My name is Sam Bowker and I am your host, and I am super pumped that you have decided to join me for today's episode. So guys, this is a super special day. For those of you that have been hanging out with me since January, you will know that, or you might notice something a little bit different, and that is that I'm in this really kind of new groovy space. And this is my new set that I started building a few days ago with a very good friend of mine. And it started off as a little vision in my head, and it ended up completely different than what I actually started off wanting. But you know why? Because I was actually building a set based on how I wanted to feel, not on what it needed to be, so that I could actually produce really good content so that you guys would like to listen to what I have to say, and it would feel really good to sit here and listen to it. So it's been a pretty crazy journey for me for the last 3 days. So anyway, I'm super, super pumped that you're here, and it's all a bit like, professional, and there's actually like, a producer person over there, and like it's a bit kind of scary for me, because for those of you that are kind of been hanging out with me for a while, you know that I kind of just roll by the seat of my pants, and I kind of, fly by the seat of my pants, and it's all a bit, impromptu, and I'm trying to sort of like level up. In fact, I'm not trying to level up. I am leveling up. And so this is what leveling up looks like. So for me today, I am like freaking the fuck out. It's a little bit scary. I've got lots of lights on. There's someone here watching, which is even more nerve-wracking, but I want to make sure that, I start creating content that you guys can listen to whilst you're driving, and that it is something that, gives you guys massive value. So that's where I'm at. And I just want to share with you what happened for me this morning, because I've had the most awesome, magnificent morning. And it started at 4 a.m. when I woke up, and I was like, oh my God, I don't want to get up. I'm like, this is so early. This is so early. And I lay there for a second, and then I went, no, do you know what? If I don't get up right now, this is not going to happen. You've got to make this happen. If you want to really record something that's going to be, cool, then you've got to get up and you've got to get some energy and vibration into your body. So I got up and I started walking on my treadmill, and I hate exercising, as you know, but that's okay. I put my treadmill on and I started walking. And I went into my YouTube, right, For You, I think it's called About You or whatever, the stuff that you scroll through. And I went in there looking for a bit of inspiration. And I literally just typed in inspo, right? And this morning's inspiration is quite funny, because those of you that know me well would know that some years ago, the word God, G-O-D, dog backwards, sorry, God. I can't even spell. See, it's this early in the morning for me, people. But the thing is that word used to trigger the fuck out of me, right? I would hear it and I would be like, oh my God, this is like, and I didn't like it at all, right? And the simple fact is, this morning, when I turned my YouTube on for a bit of inspo, everything was a sermon or somebody, and I was like, okay, I'm not going to fight this. I'm just going to listen, right? And one of the guys that came on is a guy called Stephen Furtick. And the reason this was interesting is that a while ago he came across my page, and he is the best speaker, right? He's a pastor, and he's in North Carolina, and he's a bit out there, and he's not what my vision of God or pastors or church was actually like. But this guy, he's such a great speaker. And he was talking about how your beliefs are your blueprint, right? Now, blueprint I can relate to. Like, I'm in business, I understand blueprint, I talk about it all the time. It's like it's your map, right? But he was talking about your belief being your blueprint, and your blueprint coming from where you grew up and what you've seen as you've been growing up, which is exactly the same stuff I teach. So I'm listening along and I'm thinking, this is pretty cool. And I started realizing that my blueprint for who I am and where I want to go is created such a long time ago, right? But some of it served me and some of it didn't. And so I've pretty much spent the last 20 years trying to figure out how to get to where it is that I want to go. And this little show that I'm doing called Happy AF, I swear a lot. If you know me well enough, you know that I say fuck this and fuck that. And for a long time, I tried to, calm that part of me down, because I felt like it wasn't appropriate. And I felt like, it wasn't something that was consumable. And so I tried to fit myself into this little box. I don't know if you can relate, but I tried to fit myself into this little box, okay, to fit with what society said was okay. And the reality of that is that when you try and squeeze yourself into a place that doesn't serve who you are and doesn't serve the highest expression of who it is you're trying to be on this earth, you're going to end up having a side effect. Now, for some people, that side effect is going to be anxiety. For other people, it's going to be depression. And then often the side effect of those two things is that we'll end up addicted to something. We might be addicted to drugs or alcohol or sex or porn or all of the above. But the reality is we don't like feeling not good. We don't like feeling anxious and depressed and angry and sad. So we will numb ourselves and we will find a way to feel better. Now, for some people, they do drugs. That was definitely my poison, right? I numbed the shit out of myself, and because I was afraid that if I was my real self, that I might not be liked and I might not be loved and I might not be accepted. And so when I was little, it was that whole story around you're too noisy, you're too loud, you're too bright. And I was just chatting with a friend about this last night, and I was saying to him, oh my God, I've been building this studio and I'm so excited and I'm going to do this show. And yesterday I kind of had a bit of a meltdown because it wasn't kind of going the way I thought it was supposed to go. And I was freaking the fuck out. And my friend was like, it's cool, we'll get this. And I'm like, yeah, but no. And honestly, I was having this major meltdown. And last night my friend says to me, well, what do you think that's about? Why do you think you were freaking out so much? And I was like, you know what? Because I realised that if I do what in my heart I know I'm supposed to be doing, which is going out there and being a shining light for humanity, which I know sounds a bit biblical and a bit godlike, and please don't let that trigger you. It kind of still triggers the fuck out of me. But if I really do believe that that is what I'm supposed to be doing, if I really do believe I'm supposed to be helping people break free from anxiety and depression and addiction because I've done that, if that's really my purpose, I can't just keep doing it here in my little clinic on the Central Coast helping 20 people a week because it's just not enough. So I got to get out of my own way, right? I got to get over my shit. I got to get over my fears and my insecurities. I got to get over worrying whether or not you guys like me or not, whether you are going to accept me. I've got to get over your opinions and judgments. But most importantly, I have to get over my own, because it doesn't really matter what anybody else thinks. If you don't like yourself, if you don't love yourself, if you don't respect yourself, then nothing else matters. So when my friend asked me last night, what do you think this is? Why do you think this is freaking you out so much? It's because I know that by leveling up in this way, by building this studio, by having this friend of mine help me do this, and by being accountable to someone else, I have no excuses left. I'm all out of excuses. I have to actually show up, right? I don't have to, but I get to. And now there's other people counting on me. So when I heard this story this morning about your belief is all about your blueprint, right? I started questioning my interest. It was interesting for me. I was like, where did my blueprint come from? Because I grew up in a great family. I grew up with parents that told me I could be anything and do anything and have anything. I had no excuse to go down the path that I went down. And so I've always spent a lot of time beating myself up about that and going into a space of, why did I do that? What was my excuse? And the only thing I can come at is that my internal critic, right, my judge is so fucking loud. She is so loud and she is in my ear. And I don't know if your judging critic is really loud like mine, or whether yours is a bit quieter. I don't know. But I know that people out there in the world that are struggling, or I believe, let me just say this, I believe, which again is just a story, it's my blueprint, but I believe those people out there that are wanting to tread a path that maybe hasn't been trodden before, or that are wanting to create something, like the artists, the creators, the people that are doing things that are new and different, I believe their critic is really freaking loud, right? And that critic, if we listen to it, it stops us from going out there and shining bright. It stops us from going out there and giving of ourselves to other people. It stops us from making an impact, right? And everybody wants to make an impact, whether we admit it or not. Everybody does care about how they're thought of, right? We do. Everybody cares what people think about them. Unless, you're a complete narcissist or a psychopath, or you've got some major neurological disorder, you care. We do, because we're mammals and we want to fit in and we want to belong. It's the number one thing that causes people to feel anxious and depressed, is not having a sense of tribe and a sense of belonging. So when I listen to these sermons, right, I acknowledge now, I can finally acknowledge that back when I was younger, my blueprint around religion and God was that it was a control of the masses, right? I created this narrative, this story that was like, it's for weak people and it's a control of the masses and like it's for people that can't think for themselves. And sure, like that may be true. I certainly made that my reality when I was younger. But what if I decided to just, change the narrative to, well, people need something to believe in. And if they want to believe in God, great. If they want to believe in love, great. For me, I like the word God because it's dog backwards, and I think dogs are like pure love. I mean, have you ever met anything that comes running and greets you when you come home and wants to just lick you and love you and snuggle you and give you all of your attention, and you might have yelled at them in the morning and they forget. They are pure forgiveness. So I kind of like the way I came at it when I started allowing myself to let go of that trigger with the word God. And it doesn't matter if you get triggered by the word God, you might use the word source or universe or spirit. That's what I used to use. And I use them all now because I'm not triggered by any of them. They're just stories, okay? So anyway, I digress. And I mentioned at the beginning, I'm a little bit more nervous today because I feel like I'm really starting to kind of step into this new place. And nerves are good, guys. It means it's important. But you know what else about nerves are good? It means that I'm growing. It means that I'm stepping outside of my comfort zone. And if you're not growing, you're dying, okay? So I'm always talking about that. Growth is good, but growth is uncomfortable. It doesn't feel like you don't sit there going, these growing pains are just like, so good. Like, that's not what happens. You roll around in it and you go, this is uncomfortable. I don't want to do this. What are people going to think? And we go into our head, right? And so I'm just going to take a breath. I'm going to reset myself. In fact, I'm going to take 2. And this morning, this is what happened. I listened to these beautiful stories, and it was, as I mentioned, really interesting that it was all biblical. And I was like, okay, all right, I could choose to go, this is interesting, or I could choose to go, okay. I did create a story at the end of last year when I did a workshop that my mission here on the planet was to love and lead and inspire and be a shining light for humanity. Now, at the time, as I said it out loud, I was like, who do you think you are? Like, my critic jumped in. Who do you think you are to think that that is your mission? Like, are you crazy? You think you're God? You think you're like, I don't know, some thought leader, some like innovator. You think you're some like, I don't know, important person. That's what my critics started saying. And I just was like, you know what? It doesn't matter. That was the thought that came into my head. I want to be a shining light for humanity. And what does that actually mean? I just want to help people feel good. I just want to help you feel good. I want to help you let go of shit that's not serving you. I want to help you demolish limitations that are stopping you from stepping into your power and living your divine, inspired life. I want to help you live your life happy AF. And to do that, you need to be free from all that shit. You need to be free from those limitations. You need to be able to shut your critic down. Because your critic's just trying to keep you safe. At the end of the day, right? Your critic is there talking to you in your ear, and it's trying to keep you safe. It's trying to stop you from being judged. It's trying to stop you from being not accepted. So again, I go back to when my friend asked me last night, like, why do I feel so about things right now? It's because I know that where I am going and what I want to do is finally starting to happen because I'm starting to be honest with myself. I'm starting to let go of my own opinions and my own judgments. Because if I really want to go out there and be a shining light for humanity, my goal, that's what I want to do for me, but I'm hoping it does something helpful for you. But I can't do that if I keep making it about me. If I keep going, oh my God, do I look okay? Do they think I look too fat? Have I got the right top on? Is my hair okay? Have I got the right lipstick on? Like, that's just totally self-absorbed, right? So I'm going to go back again to this morning. Here's my morning, right? I had the best morning. I do my treadmill. I then send a message to someone I love dearly, and I won't drop them in it, but I send a message to someone I love dearly because I see this cool sermon and I think, you know what, this is something that they might enjoy. And then after sending it to them, they messaged me straight back. Now, this is a person I love so much, but I never really speak to them anymore. I don't get to connect with them. And they send me a message straight back. And so I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna call this person. So I call them, and right at that moment, she's having a panic attack. She's not feeling great. And I was so grateful in that moment that I got this message from her, because I was like, I wouldn't have called. It was 5 a.m. in the morning. I would never have thought to call her at that time of the day, okay? But I did, because not only did she respond back with love hearts when I sent her this message, because I was like, okay, wow, she's awake. Then she sent me a video. Then she sent me a video singing me a song. I'm like, okay, I'm going to call her, right? And I called her, and in that moment, she was having a panic attack. And I was able to talk her through. Now, truthfully, I don't know if I helped her, but what I do know is that in that moment, just being able to connect with this person meant more than anything in the world to me. And to be able to do that this morning before I come here and film this for you, after I've just been given all these messages, who we can say are from God or from Source or from my higher self, whatever it was, that's what the universe, spirit, angels, that's what YouTube decided I needed this morning for inspiration. So, okay, I got that. And then after that, I'm on my way to my studio to film, and my producer says to me, hey, if you happen to know where there's a coffee shop, could you grab us a coffee? I'm like, yeah, I can get a coffee. So I ring and I order a coffee. And as I walk into this coffee shop, this girl says to me, right, oh my God, after I give my girlfriend a hug, she goes, you're so beautiful. I knew you must know I knew you'd know her. And I was like, oh, like talk about, this is what you want to be feeling like. Someone telling you that you look amazing at 6 a.m. in the morning when you're about to come on and film a show. This is the stuff you want to be hearing. And so then I tell her, oh, I'm doing this show. And they're like, what do you mean your show? And I'm like, well, I'm creating this show. It's called Happy AF. So I get to share this again. I'm sharing this story. I'm talking about it. And then she gives me a bottle of wine. I'm like, well, it's a little bit early for me to drink wine this morning, but I take the bottle of wine and I walk away, and I'm just like, honestly, I was feeling so good. So by the time I walk into my studio this morning, still not really knowing what I want to share with you, I'm like, how can I not share that stuff? Okay? Because this has been my morning, and my goal is to help you be happy and free, or happy as fuck, let's be honest. And what does that mean? Well, it means free from all of that shit that's not serving you. So I want you to take a moment right now, and I want you to ask yourself, what are the patterns of thinking that you have on a consistent basis that don't serve you? I'm going to ask you again. What are the patterns of thinking that you have on a consistent basis that are not serving you? And more importantly, not serving you to live the life that you want to live. A life free from anxiety, free from depression, free from addiction. A life where you are living it on purpose, where you're thriving, not just surviving, where you're doing that thing. Like, even if you think right now, well, I don't know, like I think I'm happy. Like, if you're saying, oh, I think I'm happy, then let me tell you, you might be okay, but you're not happy. You're not joyful. If you have to kind of ask that question in that way, then I'm telling you, you're not living your life, or telling you, look, this is, again, my belief. I talk a lot about beliefs. These are my stories. But I believe that if you are not waking up going, yep, this is what I'm supposed to be doing, then there's something more for you out there. Now, I'm not saying throw the baby out with the bathwater. I'm not saying get rid of everything that's going on in your life. But what I am saying to you is that you do deserve to have greatness in your life. You do deserve to be doing that thing that fills up your cup, right? Now, if that's your career, great. Okay, I had to search a lot to get to where I am right now. And actually, I want to share a quick story with you about this beautiful, beautiful girl that I've had the pleasure of knowing for about 5 or 6 years now. And, you know, she's now a young lady. She's about 20 years old. And when I met her, she was really anxious, okay? And she was only 15. She was a kid. And to be honest, being a kid today, I reckon, is super tough. And if you're a teenager out there struggling, like, hey, like, seriously, I feel you. Peace, sister. Peace out, brother. Like, whatever. It's tough for you guys out there. You are growing up in the world of Insta-famous. You're growing up where all of your fuck-ups and mistakes are on social media to be thrown back in your face at any given moment. So I feel for you, because I have to tell you, if there was a running commentary of my life in my 20s, I don't know if I'd still be here, honestly. So anyway, I see this girl and she's beautiful. And I'm not just talking beautiful on the outside because, yes, she is stunning, absolutely gorgeous, but she's beautiful on the inside. She's one of the nicest people I've ever had the pleasure to meet. And she is really, really doing it tough. Now, like, the thing that breaks my heart about this right now is that she has just got everything going for her, okay? She's an amazing human being. She's super smart. She has the world at her feet. She's 20 years old. And she's sitting there saying to me the other day, but I don't know where I'm going and I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing and I haven't got it all worked out. And I'm like, yeah, duh, you're 20 years old. Like, what are we telling our kids that makes them think at 20 they're supposed to know what the fuck they want to do for the rest of their life? She's 20 years old, right? And so I said to her, listen, at 20, I didn't know what I wanted to do. So I tried everything. You know, I have done more jobs and careers than most people have had hot dinners. By the time I was 25, I had literally done 46 different types of jobs. I'd been a hostess on a yacht, a skidoo, ski patrol, tour guide. I'd sold timeshare, real estate. I mean, like, you name it, I'd done it. I'd been bartender, waitresses, shooter girl, like go-go dancer. I'd done everything, okay? And I didn't know what I wanted to do still at 25, but at 25, the only thing I knew was that I'd done all these different things. Now it was time to get serious. Now it was time to get a real job. Now it was time to do what society told me I had to do and do the thing that I was told my entire life that I was really, really good at, which was sales. And I was like, okay, I'm going to become a real estate agent. And so that's what I did. I became a real estate agent. I bought my first house. I was very successful. I was kicking ass and taking names. I was like doing everything that I thought I wanted to do. And I had everything I thought I was supposed to have. I had the house, the car. I was successful and I was miserable. And I was 25. Now, all I know is that over that next 20 years is what's landed me to where I am right now. But that whole story about we're supposed to know what we're doing. So I just said to her, you know, go out and experience life. Go out and try things. Don't feel like you're supposed to know. So this whole show, Happy AF, is about understanding that happiness is an inside job. There is nothing on the outside that's going to give it to you. There is no amount of money, wealth, success, external validation, people telling you you're amazing. None of that shit is going to ever matter. It's not going to help you get happy, I promise. I tried, I did it all, and I still was miserable until I realised that the only thing that was going to get me there was starting to really listen to what it was that made my heart sing, right? What it was that made me feel good. And it's not just one thing. Like, I love helping people. I love helping people get out of their own way, but I had to learn to get out of my own way first. I also love singing, so I've started doing that, hanging out with the same person who's helped me build this studio. And we have so much fun. I stand there and I start singing, and honestly, like, that fills up my cup. I love connecting with my girlfriends. I love hanging out with my dog. I love hanging out with my daughter. I love hanging out with my family. I love snowboarding, right? All of these things bring me joy. So it is my intention with this show to show you and give you some tools and resources to help you live your life happy AF. Happy and free, happy and financial, happy and fierce, happy and fabulous, happy as fuck. Like, fuck is the best word. So if you don't like fuck, I mean, I probably should put sound warnings. In fact, you know, producer will add that in later. We'll chuck in some what is it? Strong language warnings. Strong language warning. If you have got young people and you're worried about their ears, this is not the show for them. But I have to say, on a completely different note, my 11-year-old the other day, sorry, she's not quite 11, but she'll tell you she is. I was talking to her and she says to me, I can't even remember now what the story was, but all I know is that I asked her a question and she deadpan looks me in the face and she says, Mum, I have 0 fucks to give. Now listen, okay, all those parents out there that are screaming at me, I've got to tell you, in that moment, I laughed my ass off so hard. And I've got to tell you, yep, we don't want our 10-year-olds going out there saying fuck this and fuck that. But when my daughter used 0 fucks to give in that particular situation, I had to say I had a proud mama moment, okay? because that's how we roll in our family. So no, I'm not encouraging your children to go out there and swear, but I am encouraging your children to go out there and be real. And I'm encouraging you to be real with your kids. Don't go protecting them from everything. Be real with them. Show them when you're struggling. Show them when you're doing it tough. Because I promise you, if you do that, your kids will learn how to navigate this life in a way that, I don't think I did in the early stages. So on that note, guys, I think I'm going to finish up because I feel like I'm beginning to ramble. The nerves have kicked in. I want to say thank you so much for hanging out with me. This first time in my brand new studio. I'm always going to be as real and raw as I possibly can. I'm going to show up and I'm going to give of myself the best of my ability. And I love you guys and I hope you enjoyed the show. Listen, like and subscribe, share it with friends, tell people about this show. This is here for you. And if you want to know about something in particular, if there's something out there that you're struggling with, then reach out, send me a message, DM me, and I will talk about it on next week's show. I love you guys, and I will see you next week. Bye. Peace.